Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Unicorns and Typewriters. My name is Skylar and I'm back today with another exciting booktube video. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing something a little different. I am going to be talking about a children's book set that is in a different language. Let me explain a little bit. If you're normally here for my kind of regular booktube videos, I want to make sure I catch you before you leave this video because you're like, what the heck is this about? But if you love dark fairy tales, then I would highly recommend sticking around because I want to tell you about not only books, but also a TV show that is based around dark fairy tales that is very reminiscent of like the Grimm brothers, Hans Christian Andersen. I even think it borrows from those a little bit. It will open your eyes to something really, really cool. If you've been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I do mostly booktube videos related to young adult novels. That is my favorite thing to read because that is also what I aspire to write myself. And it is what I also have a master's degree in. That is writing for young adults and children. But I did mostly focus on writing for young adults in that program that I did while living in England for a year. I have an interest especially in young adult, but I do also like to read children's books on occasion. I can really appreciate a very well-written picture book, but this is a little bit of an exception because if you have been watching my channel for a while, you know that I am into K-pop music and I do K-pop unboxings on occasion, and also that I am into K-dramas, which I've talked about before because I've read a couple of young adult novels with characters that also like K-dramas or reference K-dramas, such as I Believe in a Thing Called Love by Marine Gu. And I'm also currently reading another book about a Korean character who is aspiring to become a K-pop star. It's something that's really interested me ever since the pandemic, really, and I started realizing how many K-dramas were on Netflix. I had watched a K-drama probably back in like 2017 for the first time. I watched one called Hello My 20s, I believe. I'll put a picture here. I absolutely loved it, but I kind of just like ended up going like a year or two after that without really watching any other K-dramas. But it really impressed me because I felt that it dealt with really tough issues, really interesting issues, and had very unique storylines. And I do also feel like K-dramas touch on very different emotions. They veer away from the sort of westernized film that we see, the sort of Hollywood film that we see in the States. And they take things at a much slower pace. They have very quiet moments. And there's kind of like this overarching belief that Americans are impatient. We like things like fast and flashy. And a lot of Americans, I think, are like that. And if not just because they like it, because they've been conditioned to like it. And as someone who also studied film for a year, I just was so fascinated by it, and I still am. They lean into these quiet, emotional moments. They have really slow build-ups often, but I like the anticipation of that, and I enjoy that. I even enjoy that in reading and novels. I think that's why I've always loved reading books, is because we get those introspective moments. Off on a little bit of a tangent, K-dramas have just opened my eyes to what I think are incredibly unique stories. They're really, really different. And one that I watched during 2020, I believe, so during the pandemic, I watched it for the first time, was It's Okay Not to Be Okay. I'll put like some kind of picture here. I really, really loved it. It is such a beautiful show because it focuses a lot on mental health and disabilities. And I really liked the way they handled that and normalized a lot of things that I feel like other shows will make into a big deal or make look bad. I thought that it handled especially mental health really, really beautifully. And on top of that, it's a love story. It's like a crime kind of mystery. It's just a really beautiful story about self-acceptance. And I feel like it explored this idea of adults who are in their late 20s to early 30s who still have this feeling of being a child. And it's not like what we see, I feel like in the States a lot, we get this sort of like Peter Pan syndrome of like people being really immature as they get older. But it's not so much about that as about the idea that there are people who face traumas as children and it sort of stunts them internally. It's not that they failed to grow up and get jobs and be responsible adults, but they're still struggling with these issues from their childhood on the inside. And it ends up being about 3 characters that are kind of end up doing that together, like struggling through these childhood issues that they've pushed down. And it just, the scenery, the filming is beautiful. There's moments in the filming where these adult characters will suddenly be portrayed as children. And I found that just so fascinating from a film perspective and just like a visual perspective. I also really loved it because there was animation involved as well. There were these little like stop motion scenes. They were kind of all at the beginning of the series, and I wish it was something that they had consistently done through the whole series, because it's definitely the thing that like drew me into it, as I am also a huge stop motion fan, which is one of my biggest interests in film. But basically they had these little scenes that portray kind of fairy tales. And the other thing I really loved about this series was that it had a very cool, dark fairy tale vibe. One of the main characters is a writer. She is a children's book writer, and I just, oh my gosh, it completely blew me away. Her character is like exactly what I aspire to be. Like, I'm really nothing like her character, but she's like this eccentric, like dark fairy tale writer, and it's just like, oh, it's wonderful. It's just like everything I want to be. Her outfits are so cool. I'm always like, oh my gosh, they're these like beautiful gothic dresses that she wears. And she's like such a drama queen, which is not my personality at all. She has like an antisocial personality disorder, so her character is definitely not always nice to people and a little bit off, but she's just such a cool character. And as a writer, I love watching stories about writers. I don't know, maybe it's a little egocentric, but I just find it really fascinating. So anyway, what I'm really here to do today is talk about these books that I got that are related to that show. They are children's books, but they are from the show. So the author in the show, who is the eccentric children's book author with a personality disorder, her name is Ko Moon Young, if I'm saying it correctly. I am working on my Korean pronunciation, so bear with me a little bit. So she is a children's book writer, and she writes these very dark, creepy children's books, and I immediately was super drawn to it because that is what we see sort of played out in stop motion, one of her stories, and some kind of childhood flashbacks. And I found out that they made actual physical copies of her children's books from the series. They're all kind of based on very dark fairy tales. Like I said, very grim fairy tale vibes and very like Hans Christian Andersen. Like, they're really dark, but they're really beautiful. And I would highly recommend checking out the show because they do read through quite a few of them on the show, but a couple of them, they don't tell the whole story on the show. So when I found out that they made physical copies of the books, I absolutely had to get them. So the thing is, they are printed in Korean. There is no English version. So I will have to figure out how to translate. I am actually trying to learn some Korean, but I know it'll probably be a while before I can actually read Korean. So I'm hopeful, but I had to have them. I was so obsessed with the show, I just had to have them. So anyway, I thought I would do kind of a little bit of like an unboxing haul with them because I did order them. They all came together. As you can see, they're all wrapped up. So this is supposed to be like all of her books from the show. There are 5 of them, and I think there's supposed to be a little like bonus thing in here as well. Here they are in all their glory. I'm gonna show you each one. Let's get started. So despite the order that they were packaged in, I want to first open up the book that kind of starts the series, which is The Boy Who Fed on Nightmares. And if you look here, you can see they actually have this little cardboard advertisement here that has a picture of the characters as stop motion animation characters. It is mostly a live action show, but I find that really cute. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this one up. Okay, so here we are. Oh, it looks so nice out of the package. I already love the front cover so much. Just to have these to display, honestly, is worth it because I love the show so much. So it's got this little cardboard case that was on the pages. So I'll just set that aside for a second. We've got the back as well. It's so pretty. I'm so impressed by this series. by like the fact that they made these all together. The inside is kind of blank, but then we do have, which is like really cool, like the author's signature. I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is just like printed on. It's not a real signature, but it's cool because it's like her signature from the show, which is really fun. And then we've got the story. So this is beautifully printed, in my opinion. As you can tell from the illustrations, it's like very dark. Her stories are very, very dark fairy tales. I wish I could read some of it to you, but I can't because I don't speak Korean. But yeah, we didn't actually get to see every like page in the story because she kind of gets interrupted when she's trying to read it. But I also was so excited to see some of these illustrations. Like, this is so dark and amazing and creepy, and I love it. This story very much fits the theme of the entire TV show, where it talks a lot about kind of a child who ends up sort of stunted from experiencing really like terrible things, and about how the only way for him to kind of grow up and move on is to sort of accept his fears. But it's just really, really cool. I highly recommend watching the show because they explain it a lot better, and I'm so excited to try to read this whole story at some point or translate it or whatever so that I can actually know the entire story, because I think we kind of hear the whole story, but she does get interrupted the first time she's trying to read it to children at a hospital. I love this. I'm so happy to own this. Like, I want to like put it somewhere on my shelf where it's like very much displayed. So I will go ahead and open up the Cheerful Dog next, I believe is the translation, but I saw somewhere that it's also like the Springtime Dog. So I'm sorry, I don't know exactly which one is correct, but I feel like in this show they call it the Cheerful Dog. So we've got this one. These are like so nice and matte. They look so nice, and then the designs are like a little shinier. But it also has this little cardboard thing on the bottom that's advertising the show, I'm sure, which is really cute. It also is like signed by the author, which is neat. I also really love this story. It's basically about a dog that's been like tied up its whole life. This one's a pretty simple one, but it's really cute, and I'm also honestly just really excited to have all of them. So the next one is The Hand and the Monkfish, I believe is what they translate it to. It's really cute. It's also a really dark story. And yeah, it's a really dark story. It's a very, very, very dark story. This one's really on terms with like grim fairy tales. I love dark fairy tales and dark stories, so I'm very excited to have this one. The next one is Zombie Boy, and it is about a zombie boy. So it also has this little cardboard case at the bottom, which is nice. Little advertisement, also signed. Oh, I love the blood splatters. That's so like dark. It's great. It's got these beautiful, really dark illustrations. I feel like this is probably like my next favorite after The Boy Who Fed on Nightmares. It's just very creepy. It really reminds me of the illustrations in Tim Burton's only published book, which is a poetry book that he wrote. You should check it out if you like poetry and you like Tim Burton. But it does really remind me of Tim Burton's illustrations. Very, very dark and creepy. And also there's some murder. I enjoyed the show though so much. These all have like really deep messages about childhood and growing up and kind of getting over childhood trauma. And I love that I own this too. And then the last one is the last book that the author writes in the series, which is translated to Finding the Real Face. And this book actually is the only one that she wrote that is fully based off of herself and the other two characters in the show, which are two brothers. And this one is cool because it does come with something a little special on the back, which is supposed to be, from my understanding, the one brother's drawing notepad that he uses in the show. So we have this really beautiful cover. Let me show you guys. I'm going to take off a little cardboard piece so we can really see what's going on here. It's really, really beautiful. I love the cover. These are the three main characters. That's the writer, that's the younger brother, and that's the older brother who's an artist. And it's all about them. It's really cool. yeah, there's these extra like little notes in here, which I'm really excited to try to translate. It's yet again signed as well. And then, yeah, we've got this story that's very much like her house in the show, and then all the characters, and it's all about them like figuring out how to escape these things that have been restraining them. For her, it's like having no emotions. For the younger brother, it's very much about putting on a face for other people. And for the older brother, it's like he's stuck in a box because he has kind of limited himself from her perspective. But they all are able to, as you see, kind of shed these restraints. And I'm so excited to read this. I don't feel like they tell the whole story in the show. Maybe they do, but I think we just get kind of an idea of what this one is about. So I'm really excited to translate it and figure out how to read it and figure out what the whole story really sounds like. And yeah, I'm really excited to own this too. It's also one of those things like I just want to like display it on my shelf because it's so beautiful. And then the little extra we got was this drawing notepad that the older brother has. Oh yeah, and he always draws these butterflies because he feels like his mother was killed in front of him when he was a child, and he was always telling people that it was the butterflies that killed his mother. And there's a whole story behind that. It's really dark, very dark, fairy tale-esque. I highly recommend watching this show, like I said. But yeah, oh, am I holding this like the wrong way? Who knows? Anyway, we've got some writing, which I'm excited to figure out what that says. We have more butterflies, some writing and butterflies again. I really like this. It's cool. I'm really excited to see what that says. And then we've got blank pages. So I guess, you know, you could use this as a drawing book for yourself if you wanted to, but obviously, like, I probably would never do that, and I'm gonna want to put it on my shelf with the other books. So it is really cute though, because this is the sketch he does that's kind of the concept art for the illustrations. The older brother is supposed to be the one who does the illustrations for this book. All the other books were before she met the two brothers, but the last book he did the illustrations for, and this was kind of the original concept art, which is really cool. So yeah. So anyway, I know that was a little bit of an unconventional haul, and I know I've been doing a lot of like K-pop, K-drama content lately. So I hope that some of you really enjoy it. If you don't, I will be back with more kind of like typical booktube videos. I am still waiting on my December Owlcrate. I'm getting a little worried about that, so I might like reach out to them and be like, hey, should I be worried? But I think I got a notification that something is shipping soon. So I think I'm gonna end up getting my December Owlcrate and my January Owlcrate like really close together. So I'll have a lot of Owlcrate unboxings coming up really soon. I will be doing some K-pop unboxings. They're really easy for me now. I'm in a weird place in life where I have a lot going on, and it's also something I really enjoy. And if you watched my last K-pop unboxing, I also talked about the fact that I always intended this channel to have a bit more variety than it ended up having. I still really want to talk about travel more on this channel, as well as writing, and not just books and book reviews and K-pop unboxings. So I hope that it'll all make sense soon. If you hang in there with me, I promise like there's some things I'm planning that maybe will add up and make sense in the near future. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please give it a like. Comment down below and let me know if you have seen the show that I was talking about, and if you also have copies of these books. I would love to hear that there are fellow fans out there. And subscribe to my channel if you want to see more K-pop, K-drama, or booktube or travel content. Got some maybe exciting things in the future. We'll see. I will be back soon with another video. I hope you all have a good rest of your week. Bye.